hello everybody. My name is Ali Serag, and today I'm going to talk to you about, you specifically, about finding your flow state. A little bit about my background. I do DevRel and product at the Flow Foundation. Previously, I was in that startup hustle. I was a software engineer and studied computer science, even though I might not sound like it. And I started a bunch of DeFi protocols and did consulting along the way. If you want to follow me, it's Ali Serag 0, because there's a lot of copycats out there. I was the first on X. I'm going to start off with a question. And I want you guys to shout because it's a little bit loud. What makes games and applications meaningful? I'm going to pick on you guys if, your lips are moving. Fun, okay, all right, what else? Community, what else? Unexpected situations, all right, some randomness in there. One more. The boys? The boys, yeah. The boys make everything funner. Even like a crazy trip to Bangkok that you almost die on a motorcycle, like if it's with the boys, it's memorable, right? What do you guys think one of the oldest recorded games in history was? Close. Dice was used in the game. It was a game called Senet, and it was about 5,000 years old. We see it in ancient Egyptian hieroglyphics, and it's the oldest one that we're aware of. Games are an integral part of human life. They've existed before written history, and the game of Senet had essentially two players. They had special squares called the Fountain of Life and the House of Wisdom. And these squares, when your pieces would land on them, would give them specific buffs. The whole goal, you have an opponent and you're trying to get your pieces to the other side of the board before them. And it incorporated aspects of randomness, like you could use dice or sticks that you threw. And long story short, it kind of summarized your journey through this life and the next life and the afterlife, right? One very interesting aspect of this game that continues to today is that it created magical circles. Every game creates a magical vortex where there are new rules that are introduced that only exist in that time-bounded time frame and environment. For example, I was talking to Brian earlier today, who has an amazing background in games, and he was describing how, you can't just run and tackle someone on the street. But when you're in the magical circle of American football, that rule is bent. It's acceptable in that time and space, right? It creates a new force field almost where anything could be possible in that environment. Games also elicit emotional responses. They incorporate replayability and randomness, which that gentleman said over there. They're easy to play, but hard to master, and they create value. One of the most important ingredients, I believe you said at the very start, is they're fun. Fast forward about 5,000 years, and our technology has changed massively, but these core things haven't. With the advent of the internet, there was a massive wave of global digitization, right? Connecting people and information in ways that were never possible before. All of a sudden, you weren't limited playing a game to the people that were in your direct vicinity, that were sitting across from you. All of a sudden, you could play games with millions of people worldwide and exchange common goals, exchange information, and beat the horde if you're into World of Warcraft. The Web3 revolution came about to disrupt something that was broken and not flowing in Web 2. Companies kept their code private and proprietary. Digital assets were infinitely copyable, yet you didn't really have control or any ownership of anything you had, even your money, right? Everything was centralized. The Web3 revolution promised a new ethos, true ownership, and offered to solve problems in human coordination. People were starting to get their power back. But everything at the beginning of blockchain revolved around finances. Where was the fun? One day, everything changed. Cats. The ancient Egyptians loved them. We still love them today. At an ETHGlobal event, about, when was 2017? About 8 years ago. Very similar to this ETHGlobal event right here in Waterloo, there was a team that had a question, had an idea. What happens if we put cats on the blockchain? It started off as a fun experiment. Let's have these genetics. Let's allow people to breed these cats, and over time they could have digital collectibles of them, and they could trade them. All of a sudden, thousands and thousands of users started purchasing, collecting, and breeding these kitties, these crypto kitties. All of a sudden, the entire Ethereum network ended up getting throttled. People were like, who the heck are these crazy cat people? Why are they breeding cats on it? Who's putting cats on a blockchain? These images shouldn't be here. Gas prices were absolutely blowing up. What that revealed was there was a massive scalability problem in Ethereum. It's the reason we're all here. It's what started everything, right? And so what ended up happening was all the conversations we hear about L2 stemmed from this. The team behind CryptoKitties came together and discussed, what does the future look like? They looked at 200 white papers that were from the cutting edge for decentralized technologies, and they essentially came up with a solution to make things flow again. Before I get into that, I want to start off with a story. Imagine that your friend, who is a complete normie, comes up to you and says, oh my God, like there's this amazing application. Maybe it's a decentralized social application or a game. You absolutely must play. And the first thing that you do when you go to that game, that decentralized app, what's the first button you're going to see in the top right corner? Connect wallet. And they're like, what the heck does connect wallet mean? Like, am I connecting my physical wallet? I don't have a physical wallet. Is it Apple Pay? Whatever. I'm going to click that. The next thing, okay, I have to download a plugin from the Chrome store. That's kind of sus, but sure, whatever. I'll trust this. Wait a minute. Now I have to memorize a sequence of like 14 words. Okay, no. You cannot save it on your computer. You have to write it down on a physical piece of paper because it's way too valuable for you to lose. Wait a minute. If I put it on paper, it's more losable than, okay, whatever. I'm gonna do that. As soon as you authenticate and go into the app, you try to do a transaction, you try to do one simple action, what's the next thing that's going to pop up? What the heck is gas? Is that online taxes? Like, okay, where do I get that from? I start Googling, I go to a centralized exchange. If you're in Canada, like I'm from, and that fellow over there, sorry for doxing you, brother, you're essentially going to be on a call with the fraud department at your bank for 5 hours trying to convince them that you're not getting scammed. If you're able to successfully do that, which you're not, then you might be able to enter the app. More likely, you're going to feel like a drug dealer messaging your friends, hey man, can I interact you some cash for some crypto so I could play this game? That is a terrible experience, right? Flow, at the protocol level, gives builders the tools that they need to remove all these barriers in using and creating Web3 apps. Before I get into how that's done, let's discuss what exactly Flow is. Flow is a layer 1 blockchain with ultra low gas fees that first launched its proof of stake protocol in 2020. It was co-founded by Dieter Shirley, who is one of the brightest minds, and he coined the term NFT, right? Now, there are currently 2 virtual machines that run on Flow. One is called Cadence and the other is EVM, meaning that Solidity contracts and popular EVM tooling like Hardhat, Alchemy, Brownie, Open Zeppelin contracts, Remix, they all work off the bat with 0 configuration needed. Flow is also the home of many consumer applications that house some of the world's largest and most energized communities. One of the first applications that launched on Flow was NBA Top Shot, and that ended up bringing in millions of people, hundreds of millions of dollars in revenue. Most of the people didn't even know it was run on a blockchain, right? And then after that, Mattel was like, hey, you know, we wanna add Barbie and we wanna add Hot Wheels. And then Disney was like, hey, we're gonna launch Disney Pinnacle on Flow. If Barbie's gonna be there, we need Disney princesses and we also need Star Wars. So massive communities ended up forming on Flow. But it wasn't until literally 2 months ago that we became EVM equivalent and are seeing a huge explosion in games, in DeFi and the likes. But what makes Flow unique for building fun applications? To build these kind of applications, especially the type that could incorporate millions or billions of users, you need really extremely powerful architecture that can scale with the billions of users that come and the data that they generate. Flow allows for the storage of massive amounts of data, and our goal is to allow a single user account to store over a petabyte of data. Flow approached the scalability issue with a unique multi-role node architecture that essentially scales horizontally. Think of it like a Ford assembly line. Instead of all of the nodes doing the exact same tasks, you have hyper-specialized nodes like access nodes that are only responsible for accessing data on-chain. Or you have verification nodes, consensus nodes, execution nodes. They're all focused on just one thing. And that allows for scalability without sharding. Putting this tech jargon aside, it allowed applications to be built like NBA Top Shot, which, for those that don't know, it essentially allows you to have these video clips as NFTs in NBA history. On certain days, that one application generates more transactions than the entire Ethereum network, showing and proving to all of us that there was a way forward for scalability, that you could get to the level where a single app could scale to the level of entire chains. I'm going to introduce just 4 unique features of Flow that unlock apps. First, Flow offers a unique account and transaction model, which EVM developers can leverage through Cadence, which is a Flow native language. This allows for things like splitting up transaction roles between the proposer, the payer, and the authorizer. And you don't need a paymaster contract. Essentially, the app can pay for transactions that the user proposes and authorizes, essentially creating fully approval-less and gasless experiences for the end users. This is extremely important for social applications, extremely important for video games and the likes. Flow also supports at the protocol level account abstraction and something we call account linking. This makes it possible to create apps where users can sign up using their regular Google authentication and a wallet is created in the background that's managed by the application itself. Transactions can also either be bundled or the app can even manage all the approvals so you don't have to sign a single transaction with every action that you end up doing on chain. As an end user, you can get all the benefits of using a decentralized app without any of the crappy UX. Second, Flow offers protocol-level VRF, or a verifiable randomness function, which allows apps to use provably fair random number generators. You don't need to rely on a third-party platform or oracles. Within one line of Solidity, you can access a random value from a range directly from the protocol itself. This is super useful for things like dice rolls, attack damage, gaining experience, and the majority of game mechanics that we see every single day. Another aspect that's super unique on Flow is attachments. So taking a step back, everything is inherently open source in Web3, meaning that when you solve a problem once for one specific issue, it's solved for everyone at all times. And you can move to the next problem that needs solving. This allows for composability, which is essentially the compound interest of innovation. Attachments allow developers to add additional data and functionality without the permission from the original author. They're kind of like modding for Web3. An example that I would give is Skyrim. How many people have heard of the game Skyrim before? So Skyrim came out almost a decade ago, but similar to Warcraft 3, they created a modding editor, or they created an editor where people could create mods on top of their base game. If you look at websites like Modding Nexus today, you will see literally 5-6 billion downloads of mods that are being created literally to current times. And some of these mods are doing things that weren't possible a decade ago. They're doing things that the original creators couldn't have even imagined. One of the mods that I was looking at mixes Whisper AI with OpenAI's API so that when you you could literally talk into your microphone to an NPC that you meet. It will take those words you're saying, convert it to text, takes that text, put it into like OpenAI's API, take the result, turn it into speech, and the NPC will literally talk back and forth with you about anything in that world. All of a sudden, you don't have these two-dimensional characters anymore. You have almost lifelike creatures. This is something that wasn't possible when Skyrim first launched. It's something that, because they made their game inherently moddable, created more value propositions beyond the original creators' concepts, and brought in, to this day, more users into the Skyrim game, right? And this is something that easily extends to Web3, easily extends to creating composable experiences and applications and contracts. And attachments make it very easy to attach additional information and data to them. You could think of capabilities as detailed permissions and granular access control, almost like AWS IAM if you're familiar with it. You could revoke, limit, or grant access to assets, functions, and resources. For games, this could apply to almost everything from making comments to community permissions for your guild to literally allowing someone to, like loaning your sword or armor or gear to someone for a specific amount of time and under specific restraints. All right, enough about the tech. Where is Flow today? We just launched the world tour where we were in previous cities like Singapore, where we focused on consumer DeFi, San Fran, where we focused on sports, and Chiang Mai, where we focused on decentralized social. Right now, we are in Bangkok and focused on two key themes for this hackathon. One is the next killer app. And I'm not talking about, Skynet or like anything like that. I mean the best consumer application targeting real everyday people and solving real problems. You could think about it almost like we've had AI around for many, many decades, but it wasn't in the hands of everyday people. They couldn't access its benefits until, it's crazy, it feels like much longer ago, but it was almost a year ago that ChatGPT ended up blowing up and became the fastest adopted product in history. All of a sudden, that consumer product unlocked the value of AI for billions of people. Your grandmother could use it for recipes. You could use it to help you with coding your application. Your brother could use it to figure out if they just poisoned their cat or not, right? You could use it for like literally anything. So I want to challenge you guys, if you're going to be hacking on that stream, to think about what is the next consumer application that solves a real problem that can literally give the value propositions and benefits of blockchain to as many people as possible. The second one is the best game. We're especially looking for Telegram games, but it's a much broader category overall. So thinking back to some of those core characteristics that I mentioned at the very beginning of what makes an experience meaningful. How could you create games that create their own, circles and warp fields and invite their users in with that randomness, with that replayability, that social aspect that connects you to the boys, right? We also have two other streams. One is for the best overall developer feedback, and the other is for giving feedback. These are rarely applied to, so I highly recommend you challenge yourselves to put in some feedback there. We're all about Kaizen and continuous improvement. This could be anything from, hey, this documentation is missing, or I think that this could be reworded, or this type of SDK integrating would be super valuable. When we look at the hackathon that we did almost 3 weeks ago, how long ago was ETH Singapore? My brain's getting warped. 3 weeks or 4 weeks ago? Huh? September. Okay, so a little bit over a month. So back in September, during ETH Singapore, there was one product that wanted to make, or one team that wanted to make a consumer-focused pump.fun application. And they wanted it to be as rug-proof as possible, requiring people to authenticate with Twitter. They won one of our DeFi streams, and within a little over 4 weeks, ended up going live on mainnet. On their first day of going live, they generated over $1,000 in fees and had over $100,000 in assets going into the protocol and being traded, right? One of the reasons for that is we've created an ecosystem storefront where if you create an application that goes live, there's the possibility of putting it in front of millions of prospective users and solving one of the biggest problems new applications suffer, which is getting their first users, right? And if there's one thing I want you to take away from this talk today, it's that over these next 3 days, you might be hacking on something that you think is a fun idea, or learning a new concept, or mixing and matching different technologies, but you really have the power to create something that will impact millions of people and go live. And I want to challenge you to do that. Flow has ultra affordable gas fees to the point where virtually all mainnet transactions are sponsored by the Flow wallet, like the primary wallet in the ecosystem, right? Try launching something on mainnet and see where it goes. If you want it to come to life, if you want to put it in front of real people, we're here to help you make that dream a reality. So, with that, I will end with, let's go with the flow. Is the randomness compatible with Solidity?
So there's the two virtual machines, right? There's the EVM one, and then there's the, what's the?
Yeah, so the consensus mechanism, as you saw in the really neat graphic, is a little different with Cadence, and so pre-Randau isn't used. And so instead, we just feed the native block-by-block VRF into that. Okay. So if you just use pre-Randau, the same that you would before, it's actually unique to that block, and it's new, meaningful randomness. If you're doing something really, really high stakes, there's a couple of additional things you would want to do with security, but for almost every use case, it's verifiable randomness, more than enough for anything, any game, any app, anything like that.
What game am I most excited to see come on chain? Oh man, everyone has different tastes in games. I am really bullish on games like Crypto the Game, where you have these characters, the social experience. It's almost like Survivor, right? Where every single day you have to vote people off. You have NFTs representing each of the characters. I would personally love to see more like Web3 games around that, mixing like zombie apocalypse themes. So maybe every night you can go on a raid and you use on-chain randomness for a percentage chance that you're gonna get loot. But then there's also danger, and you could have a composable NFT using attachments where maybe you get scratched, or maybe you lose a ligament, or like your character gets a scar, and that NFT updates when you go on these raids. And like you could form communities and you could attack other people. Like I really like those kind of like werewolf type and like social and like zombie apocalypse themed games. So something that makes all of those things together, I think would be badass.
Hey, so why hasn't on-chain poker really caught up and like made a big splash on the scene? Because like I'm thinking like bringing poker on-chain is like a no-brainer, but I haven't seen any such use case to date. It's mostly off-chain Web2 poker online.
That's a great question. I'm not entirely sure. Oh, do you want to answer that, Brendan? Oh shit. Okay. Because I think this man might have been working on just that.
Oh yes.
Yeah, we actually have a roulette launching on Flow very, very soon. But one of the biggest issues that we encountered legally was there's always a throat to choke when it comes to decentralization. And most of the chains that have a randomness function available to you are VRF, like verifiable random, but they're provided by an Oracle solution. And so those people can still be considered operators of that gambling site. If you're worried about the legality of, you know, your poker game or your roulette game or your baccarat game, then there's always someone that they can go after. And it's one of the reasons why we're seeing like Rollbit that needs to like own their thing and sanction it away from different places, you know, make sure that no one can access it from different places. And that's one of the biggest reasons that you haven't seen poker go off, I think, is because of the legal concerns around gambling in various jurisdictions where you really want to see it.
That makes sense. Thank you.
Thank you, Brandon. I couldn't have done better. Anyone else? All right, just show of hands. Who here is thinking of building a consumer-centric application? Okay, and who here is thinking about building a game? Okay, nice. Anyone want to ask any questions specifically to their, or specific to their application? Or we have about 1 minute left. No? All right, we will end it there. If you guys have any questions, our table is going to be very far in the back there, in the corner. More than happy to ideate, help you guys flesh out your ideas, or even if you need mentorship on how to pitch your presentations at the end. We also have flags that you could take from the table if you want to put them on yours so that we could give additional mentorship. Be sure to join our Telegram chat as well. Thank you guys so much.